Welcome back. We are talking about day 6 of the shutdown. Of course, the Republicans call it the Schumer shutdown, and they say that it has already cost taxpayers $1.2 billion in payments to furloughed federal workers. That's the number as of Friday, and the CBO says it's $400 million a day, which would make that actually $1.6 billion as of today, which is the 6th day of the government shutdown. Now, the Senate is expected to hold another critical vote tonight at 5:30. They are looking at 2 funding proposals. One is the Republican clean short-term bill. That is what Democrats are against. And then, of course, the Democrats have a counter-proposal, which includes Obamacare subsidies being extended. Both bills need 60 votes to pass. Democrats are opposed to the Republican-backed measure, which would extend government operations through November 21st. And then they'll have to do another one. Joining me now is Democrat consultant and former House Judiciary Committee Chief Counsel, Julian Epstein. Julian, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. What is your reaction to this shutdown?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a narcissistic move on the part of the Democrats, given that they lost the election, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I think the reality is, and I've been through a lot of these shutdowns in the past, the public doesn't seem to care that much about it or be that aware of it. Neither of the two parties feel that heat. I think probably what will happen in the end is that there will be a kicker that will extend the subsidies for maybe a year after the election. But the big picture, Maria, is that the Democrats needed a game changer here. They're going into the second half of this election cycle being far behind the Republicans on nearly every issue, mostly because they are far to the left of the median voter on every single issue, immigration, crime, you name it. And people don't like the street theater and the name-calling that have been very characteristic of the Democrats since the last election. So the Democrats really need a major game change moment here, and this is not going to give it to them until the Democrats start building, fixing the pathetic performance of our public schools, for example, or getting our workers ready for the AI revolution. They're just going to be stuck playing these small ball politics, and it's not going to change their situation, which is pretty bad right now if you look at their approval numbers.
Well, I think you make a great point, because what people want, whether you're in the middle, the right, the left, you want solutions. You want to feel like your leadership has a plan. What's the plan to create jobs, as AI is certainly going to eliminate jobs? What's the plan to get crime lower? What's the plan to make things more affordable? Zilch. I hear nothing. And then, of course, there's what you just mentioned, which was so smart. You've got an opinion piece called The Left's Political Violence Problem. After the assassination of Charlie Kirk, recent anti-ICE shootings, chaotic protests in blue cities across the country, you write, although violent extremism is bipartisan, it is disproportionately on the left. And you highlight the indiscriminate and illiterate use of radicalized vocabulary like Nazi and fascist, calling it an invitation to the radicalized fringe to commit violence. And that's exactly what has happened. We know that the assassin of Charlie Kirk had fascist edged on the bullet. So where did he get that? He got that from the Democrats. And even Democrats agree with this. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman joined me last week talking about that. The word fascist was bothering him. Watch this.
Yep.
I'm not going to switch, but I'm just going to be an independent voice in the Democratic Party. I'm not going to be afraid if people, and if there are groups attacking a Democrat, the last one in Pennsylvania, then to me, that's part of the problem, in our party. And if you want a Democrat that's going to call people Nazis or fascists or all these kinds of things, well, I'm not going to be that guy. Independent thinking and views, wherever I happen to believe the truth, regardless if it's the Republican or the Democratic voice, what I think is the truth in this. Now, in this truth right now, it's firmly on Israel through this. And it's always wrong to shut our government down. And that's where my voice is.
I'll tell you, Julian, I just love John Fetterman. I think the Pennsylvania senator is right spot on with where the American people are. Most people are hanging out in the middle, Julian. You know that. You might lean to the right on some issues. You lean to the left on other issues. But very few times you see people want Nazi and fascism words thrown out at each other.
I think you're absolutely right, Maria. And I think if you want to see the evidence of the growing violence on the left, just look at the YouGov poll a couple weeks ago. 25% of progressives think that violence can be justified to achieve political ends. Another 14% are on the fence of it. That's almost half of young progressives. If you look at what's happening on college campuses and elsewhere, we've had over 10,000 incidents a year of anti-Semitism, mostly coming from leftist ideology. If you look at all the attacks on ICE officials going on all over the country, this again is all leftist anti-law enforcement ideology. And I think the culture on the left is becoming very dangerous. When you keep calling people a fascist and a Nazi, one is it's not just an illiterate use of the term, and it's an insult to any family who's ever had to live through the horrors of Nazism. But it is inviting fringe elements of the left to take action, and we've seen plenty of evidence of this occurring. But secondly, Maria, there is a nihilism on the left. There is a deep skepticism, for example, of borders, of police, of gender categories, of energy dumps, sort of all of the things that have built the left. The progressive ideology is deeply skeptical. Well, when you don't believe in the institutions that have made the West so great, you begin to go into a place of sort of spiritual meaninglessness. And I think this is happening, particularly with a lot of young people on the fringes on the left. There is a despair. There's a sense of meaninglessness. The loss of faith in the country, I think, has contributed to this. I think there's a deeper cultural problem that's going on here that the left and Democratic politicians just seem completely out of touch with.
I totally agree. And, you know, it was the week that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Just a few days later, you had, I don't know if it was Congresswoman Tlaib or Ilhan Omar, but once again, they called the Republicans Nazis and fascist. Again. And I'm thinking, he just was assassinated. Can you at least tamp it down for a couple of days? And the education comment that you made is so spot on. We're about to celebrate 250 years of America. Shouldn't we be teaching our students how great America is and the freedom that we all enjoy instead of knocking down the institutions and knocking down America to young people? That's also driving dissent.
And that's happening out of our universities extensively with a lot of second-rate academics who think they can get attention by knocking down the West. And it's a sort of a hollow ideology that they score some cheap points on. And yes, I think this is a major problem. To the point about Representative Omar and Tlaib, you know, it's ironic because they're associating themselves with a pro-Hamas rhetoric and pro-Hamas movement that is the closest thing to Nazism we've ever seen.
That's right.
Their goal is to kill Jews and to eliminate Israel. You know, the pro-Palestinian movement was allied with Hitler in World War II. So they are ironically identifying themselves with one of the most pro-Nazi movements. But the continued use of this language by Democrats, I think, is directly contributing to the problem.
Definitely. Julian, great to see you. Thanks so much for weighing in on all of that. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Julian
thank you for having me,
Epstein,
Maria.
thank you, sir.